What's up, people? What's up, beautiful people? Welcome to the show that we got a name for, but we're not gonna name it today. All right, so today I'm gonna talk about a few things. First thing we're gonna go over is we're gonna talk about photography and videography, specifically concepts that cover both. So if you're a photographer or videographer, this is just gonna be about cameras, not specifically the technical aspects of the camera, but we're gonna talk about the logistics around working with the camera. So what I mean by that is we can snap photos, we can record B-roll. We have our cameras and we know how to use them to get really, really good images. But the thing that we don't really focus on nowadays, we focus on it, but we don't put as much energy into it, is the workflow side of things. How do we make sure that we secure a job, we go and do the shoot, we come back, we can deliver the project to the client without us being stressed or editing all night or having to borrow equipment because something failed? Just do any of those things. Hopefully this show is going to help shed some light on some of the things that you might encounter and how I'll be an example, a living example of how I've handled it. And I haven't always handled things well. I'm going to give you insight into those things too. So just to start off, I went to Idaho with I consider her a friend, but she's a client at the time. Her name's Glow. She's super dope. But I went to Idaho, beautiful place. We were in Boise getting ready for an event. I was shooting by myself. I brought all of my equipment and we went to Craft and Commerce. The name of the event was called Craft and Commerce by ConvertKit. Well, I got a chance to come across a lot of good speakers there. And one of the speakers, she was actually a Hollywood director of photography. That's dope, I thought to myself, because to give you more context, my background had always been in like what I call guerrilla filmmaking. I started off just shooting on my own, just following YouTube videos, Peter McKinnon, the whole nine, and graduated to doing events. So making recap videos, highlight videos, testimonial interviews, stuff like that. So as you can imagine, when I got a chance to meet someone who actually did movies, I was like, dang, because I had never done a film before. Mainly because it was just me and I knew it was, for me, it was just like a tall task. So I didn't do it. So anyway, talked to her. Her name is Chloe. Talked to Chloe. I asked her a question, okay? And I try not to ask people bad questions. I try to ask well thought out questions. And to me, a well thought out question, first of all, is a question that I actually want to know the answer to. Secondly, a well thought out question is a question that the answer, I cannot get it from anybody but that person. So the question I asked her was, being a DP in Hollywood, like what is the most impactful thing that you personally have learned or personally care about? And what she told me had me thinking for the next several months, not gonna lie. The thing that she said, I never forget. She said she worked for a guy who was a cinematographer, and he told her, and these were her words. She said, I can't remember her exact words, but these were her words. she said, don't miss. Do not miss. Now, that was powerful to me because that could mean a lot of things. But ultimately, to me, it's like every shot is that money shot. Like, don't miss. When she expounded on it, she let me know, like, hey, I'll do everything it takes to get a shot. And when I get to that spot, if it don't look good to me no more, I don't take it. And I'm thinking to myself, this lady is a sniper. She ain't no cinematographer. She's a Army sniper. So the moral of the story, or the reason why I gave that story, is because I really took that to heart, and I deployed it into my team and how we shoot. So I think everybody starts off shooting way too much footage, and we are the same. We still shoot a whole lot, but we find shots. We're finding angles. We're trying to get the best angles possible. And I don't think I think that's the same for most people who are videographers or into the film industry. You're trying to get all the dope shots, lying on the ground, doing whatever you can. But something that's important to us is we find those angles and we don't hit record until like we know that this is actually a well-composed, well-stabilized shot that is going to be used in the edit. The whole thing is just get good shots. Focus on getting good shots. Don't hit record until you're happy about that piece going into the final video. Because even though we're shooting on digital cards and we can shoot as much as we want to, that is going to severely affect how long it takes for you to edit the final video. Part of what the people that I know who are some of the fastest editors that shoot as well, one of the things that I know about them is that they shoot just enough to edit. And every shot is a shot they know is gonna go into the edit. Personally, I like more flexibility, so I'll shoot a bunch of stuff. There's inspiration I get in the edit that I wasn't even thinking about while I was shooting. But ultimately, most of my shots, 95% of the shots that I take can go in the final video. It just depends on how we wanna tell the story. All right, so that being said, let's transition into the big overview of this particular episode. We had a client who called us about 4 days before she needed to shoot. Called us like, hey, I got this big thing going on with this big person. His team contacted me and we need to do a keynote. And my team, I really like how quickly we can get stuff ready to shoot. And nowadays I know there's a lot of our brother and sister who just end up getting called last minute to do stuff. It's almost a way of life, especially in Atlanta where I'm located. It's like, if you're not getting called last minute for something, you're not a real videographer. That's just how it feels here. Should it be that way? No. Has it conditioned us a little bit? Yes, in two ways. So on one end, you gotta stay ready, so you gotta get ready. So as soon as I get home, like, we keep batteries that are charged up. We keep cars that are empty. Allegedly, we keep, we're just ready to go if we need to go. The flip side of that is the content quality, the content depth is watered down and dependent on the editor, whoever's gonna be editing it, to pull a story out. So very, very editor dependent in Atlanta. There's not a lot of creative direction going on in the front end. That's why I think that Monray and her team's doing a wonderful job, because they do creative direction. They've got a really dope DP, and they actually curate and create an experience, and yeah, whole nine. So anyway, we got called, and there were some things that I had to do so we could get ready, you know. One of the things that I had to do was find out who's available. That's like number one. When you have a quote unquote last minute shoot to do, there's certain things that have to be in order. 3 things specifically that you really got to get on board with. Number one, you got to send a contract and invoice immediately. I don't know how you can do it, but before you start packing up equipment and stuff, you got to send that invoice over, and it's got to get paid something. We like to get everything up front. We just got that relationship with our clients. They know we're not gonna run off with their money. That's just how we do. Having money up front beforehand does a lot of things for you. Number one, you don't have to wonder if this is a one-off job or opportunity. There's stuff going on out here where, you know, someone might get called to do a job, and they do the job and waiting to get paid after, but there's a dispute about what they were supposed to do, and now the money's tied up. Meanwhile, as a videographer, you're out of that time, energy, and work. You aren't paid yet because you're having to go back and forth and spend extra time trying to get your money. And so number one, like, getting paid up front just weeds out anybody who obviously doesn't trust you, number one. But number two, it weeds out the work that will have to be done on the back end just for you to get your money. So that's the first thing. You want to send that ASAP while you're on the phone with them, like getting the details, getting the location, quote them on the phone. It's like, yo, it's gonna be this much. Is that cool? Like, great. You good paying up front? I'm gonna send it over. Can I pay half down and then have them? Cool. Send a contract and an invoice. If they pay the invoice and they don't sign the contract, what we've done is let them know and reminded them, hey, we need you to sign the contract, or we can't come. We'll just refund you your money. You know, so that's one of the things. The second thing is finding out who's available on your team to come. Now, if you're a solo shooter, you shouldn't be solo shooting. And I know that feels easier said than done, but if you're a solo shooter, it's really straightforward to have a friend to come and just carry your bags for you. Do things that don't pertain to shooting. You don't have to replace the shooting part, but you do need to replace the parking the car part. Like, let them drop you off at the door. You need to replace the organizing stuff, making sure the bags, making sure your like equipment is secure, making sure that just different things. You're gonna need a runner. If you're working all day, it's good to have someone that can just go get lunch for you, something like that, and just pay them to do that day. And it's okay if there's a lot of time spent with them kind of not doing anything. If they're doing that, have them to get behind the scenes content with their phone. But whatever you do, avoid going and doing shoots by yourself. It's a really good way to get distracted and mess up. Call and make sure your team is available. And if they are still available, then that's perfect. The next thing you want to do is make sure that you know the editing process if y'all are gonna edit. Hopefully you're doing something that's footage only, but if you're gonna be delivering a edit to the client, you need to make sure you know when that turnaround time needs to be. 9 times out of 10, you're gonna have a shorter turnaround time on the content. So if you know that's the case, you have to remember, number one, your life is being interrupted, right? You were doing whatever you were doing. You got a phone call. You was like, oh, I got to shoot tomorrow. Let me go and shoot. But then you got to edit. So if you don't have anyone that can edit for you, that's going to be you editing all night. Okay? To get this thing turned around, to get a draft to them so they can give you the feedback so y'all can meet the due date, deadline, whatever the case is. So make sure you have clarity around how long realistically it's gonna take you to get that edit turned around, because if you gotta do it yourself, your life was interrupted here, you're shooting on this day, you still need to recover, and you gotta edit, it's gonna be 2-3 days of your life being interrupted. So keep that in mind, okay? So anyway, we were able to get everything organized. I'll have some clips for y'all in in my social media. We were able to get the team together and get the job done. Okay, so all right, so for the last piece of this, let's dive into camera equipment. So I think we're familiar with the camera equipment. We're familiar with camera bodies, we're familiar with lenses, we're familiar with monitors, we're familiar with microphones, we're familiar with lights, all of that major stuff. But what doesn't get enough attention is the little things that support us. So for example, XLR cables, if you need them. Memory cards, having enough memory cards. I know some people that have like 1 or 2 memory cards or 3 memory cards. You want to have plenty of those. What else? Just extra cables. So cables that you use that, you know, it's going to take a while for you to order it again on Amazon. I recently adopted the practice of just buying 2 of whatever I need. So if I'm buying HDMI cables, I'm gonna buy 2 of them. If I'm gonna buy anything, I remember like some USB-C wall chargers. I bought 2 of them. I actually bought like 5 of them. But the point is, make sure that you buy multiples of whatever you have. And a really cool thing that I started doing is, because I like to shop on Amazon, cool thing that I started doing was I started to build a list of items and what they cost with the link on a Google Sheet. So I use my own affiliate link, I put it on that sheet. So anytime I see something on sale for a certain amount of dollars, I will decide to, I'll say to myself, okay, let me just go on Amazon, let me go to my list and add this to the list, and then let me sort by dollar amount. And if this isn't a purchasing window for equipment for me, let me see from the cheapest to the most expensive, what are the items on here that I need to buy before I buy this thing. It helps. It helps a lot. It helps a lot. So anyway, camera equipment and support equipment, what I call support equipment, is that support equipment is it's as important as having the equipment itself. It doesn't make sense for me to have a $10,000 camera and I don't have a tripod for it. It doesn't make sense for me to have a monitor and I don't have a shade for it. All the little things that make having it convenient, that are also cheap, that are inexpensive. It's better to just save that money by not buying an extra lens, to buy extra things to help make your life easier and more comfortable. Bonus things to talk about: borrowing equipment. If you're gonna borrow equipment, make sure that you send a certificate to that person a certificate of insurance. Basically, it'll allow them to file an insurance claim if their stuff is damaged. The reason why is because you don't want to lose a friend or colleague because something happened to their stuff and then you didn't pay for it or reimburse them for it because you borrowed it in the first place because you couldn't afford it. Don't want to run into that. So insurance on your equipment is important in general, but especially when you're going to be borrowing other people's stuff. The next thing is, that's it. The other note I had was anything that you have one of, buy a second one. So appreciate y'all joining me, and we're gonna do a lot of these. Okay, I love y'all. Peace.